Good afternoon, everybody. We got a good one today. Thanks for joining us. Episode 590. We got a Vancouver Canuck, arguably first-line player now, the way it's been going. Just like having a fantastic season. He was nice enough to come on the show. I feel like we do a Vancouver Canucks player, Tim, every 2 weeks now. It's like what we do. We check in with the Canucks just because we're jumping on the bandwagon. But Conor Garland is here today. Thanks for joining the show, Conor.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We were just talking before we pressed record. You just got off an epic road trip, and I wanted to start with that because I played out west in San Jose. Can you tell everybody how long the road trip was? Because it's incredible.
Yeah, I think we left the 2nd of January, and we just got back. It's tough sometimes, just when you're on the East Coast for so long. I think the one thing people don't realize is you finish up a game to end the road trip and you still have a 5-hour flight home and you get back in the middle of the night. So that's sometimes the toughest part of all of it. But we had a couple weather delays. We got stuck in Long Island and Buffalo, and we got into Columbus the night before last night's game at about 9:30, 10, and we played at 1. So it was a bit of a grind, but we were fortunate to pull a point out of it.
So logistically speaking, do you pack a massive suitcase? Do you have a laundry service midway through? I know the Canucks take care of their players really well. How do you pack? Because you're gone for 2 weeks. Legit 2 weeks. How do you pack for that?
Yeah, I pack a giant bag that comes on the plane with me, and then a big suitcase, and then just a pea coat, a suit. Try to wear as simple as clothes as possible to games, and then the rest of the time just miss a match. So, most important is probably just the socks and underwear. You can never have too many because you might have to a team stretch or go for a walk with some guys. So you got to have as many as possible.
And then, do you end up having a suitcase for dirty laundry and one for clean laundry?
I have a compartment in my suitcase that I just throw everything in that is dirty. Yeah. And then I just come home and somehow it magically disappears when my wife gets a hold of it. It's pretty nice.
Isn't that nice? That's why you should get married, Tim. Tim doesn't believe in marriage. He's just a consummate bachelor. Right, Tim?
You're making stuff up now, John. Come on.
How old are you and you're single?
Moving on.
Conor's got to figure it out. He's 27. All right, moving on.
Not me.
He is. So let's move on to Conor Garland. You scored yesterday, your 6th goal of the year. I mentioned your line lately because it's been getting a lot of press for good reasons. You got Teddy Bluger, you got Dakota Joshua, and you got yourself. 3 guys who you would never think in a million years would work on a line together. What makes this line work so well, and why is everybody talking about you guys when you have a team with JT Miller, you got Pettersson, you got all the great Russians, you got Quinn Hughes? Why is everybody talking about you guys?
Yeah, it's sometimes nicer when they don't. When that big line has some nice nights, it's nice to go under the radar. But it's 3 players. I think Teddy is very underrated. How good he is defensively. He keeps so many plays alive with his poke check and how he stabs the puck and keeps it alive in the O-zone. And then Dak I think he leads the league. He's up there in the top for hits. And he has 11 goals. So two guys that are really, they're our top 2 PKers as well. So they're so defensively responsible. And I sometimes try to provide some offense for the line. And, if it goes in, it goes in. If not, we create energy and do stuff, that doesn't end up on the score sheets. And we just try to be effective each and every night. As a third line, you have to bring energy no matter what. So, but when you get results, sometimes you get a little bit of press.
You're not a third line. You're second line.
Well, I mean, you know what? It makes us I think a dangerous team when we have a third line like that. I think that's all the great teams. I grew up in Boston, and watched them win one cup, but be in a couple of cup finals and how deep they were throughout the lineup with, third line players like, Peverly and Louis Eriksson, all these guys that came in and out of Boston. That's kind of what makes, some good teams is the depth. We have such star power that it's nice to help out in a different way.
You were a kid growing up in Boston. Did you see my hit versus Louis Eriksson back in, I think it was 2012? When I caught him across the middle?
Yes.
You think that was clean, or what'd you think of that?
That's not for me to decide. I think Buffalo and Boston had enough problems. I know Lucic hit Miller, I think, the year prior. I think one of my favorite fights ever was him fighting the next year, and he won the fight. It kind of made you feel like nobody could stop the Bruins at that point. So I'm sure you were just out there.
I came in and cleaned up Sean Thornton pretty good in Boston. So we're forgetting that part, Connor. I don't think that's going to be said. So I'll say
I block out all the bad ones. I just remember the Leaf series and that hit. That's it.
So you mentioned your line doing things that don't show up on the score sheet. Like, what do you mean? Because we got a lot of fans, hockey fans, but we got a lot of people who don't know hockey that well. What do you mean by not showing up on the score sheet?
Well, we get a lot of defensive zone starts, and we consider it a good success for our line is that we'll end up a lot of those shifts in the O zone with the face-off, and then either Miller or Pettersson can come out and do what they do best, and that's a good momentum builder for our team, and we take a lot of pride in that. And Teddy's such a good face-off guy, and Dak is really good on the walls. I think that's probably his best quality is his percentage of getting the puck out on the walls with the deep pinching is extremely high. And I just have to come over and slash and give support, and then we try to get it in the O zone. So it's a small part of the game, but it's nice when you can get your top players consistent O zone draws.
So everybody knows about the fight between you and Dakota. I'm sure. Listen, there's reasons for fights. I'm just wondering, why would you do that? He's an absolute monster out there these days. What was going through your head when you're challenging this guy in camp?
Yeah, I accidentally undercut him reaching for a puck. I'm small out there, and I play small. I sit low towards the ice. I should say, and I kind of got under his legs, and he went over top, and he didn't know who it was, so he was kind of just running at guys, and he was upset, and it was me, and he ended up getting me with a good slash. So I just, I snapped a little bit. It is what it is. But fortunately, it's silly, obviously, because it's Vancouver and there's a lot of media, and that makes its rounds around Twitter. But to us, it was over, I think, at the end of the day. And he's obviously one of my good buddies on the team. We sit together on the plane and have a lot of chats. I don't think we've talked about that since. So, but I know I'm sure it gets brought up now that we've played together the whole season.
Now, I know your fighting style is a lot like Rob Ray, just because you shed the gear, you shed the jersey, and you try to get free because you like to throw the bombs. Was that going through your head when you're squaring up with Dakota, when you're like, okay, I got to get my jersey off? Because I saw the Marshall fight. Everything was off, and it was away we go.
That was a tough fight. I had a broken finger there. If you see it, I kind of go into the fight with with one of my fingers sticking up in the air. So, but it was just but he got the better of me in that one. But Josh didn't throw a punch. He deserves a lot of respect for that. He could punch my head clean off. So he didn't touch me. He just kind of held on and let me get my frustration out. And then the guys on the bench and everybody cleared it up, and we went on our way.
That's funny. Well, let's talk about this year, because you guys are having a great year. This is your third season with the Canucks. We'll get to the trade. I'm friends with OEL, so I know him a little bit. You guys are having a great year. Everybody knows at first place by a mile in the Pacific Division. Everything seems to be clicking. Everybody's having a good year. Why? We talked to Tyler Myers a few years ago. We talked to JT Miller. He comes on the show quite a bit. A couple years ago when they were struggling, when things weren't working well. Why is it working this year? You were part of those teams when nothing was clicking. Why this year are you 29-11-4 in first place and everything's going in for you guys?
Yeah, we had Talk come in halfway through the year last year and implement his system. And I think something underrated was we had that 30 games to kind of get caught up, and we didn't have a lot of turnover. I know we added some new D and a couple forwards, but a lot of us understood the system going into camp. And then the guys that didn't picked up on it very quickly. So that was a huge advantage for us coming into the season and get off to a good start. And, last year we lost a lot of leads, and it's tough sometimes when you don't have something to fall back on. And now when we have a lead, we understand how we have to play. We don't change how we play, but we play in your face, and we push two, and we stick to our system, and it's implemented very well, where all four lines can get rolled out and play it, whether we're down or up. So it's our team to play against when we are playing well.
So how different is the systems between Tocchet and Boudreau? Because you mentioned systems and implementing them, and everybody's on the same page. What are the main differences between these two mentalities?
It's tough. I think both systems were good. I just think this one maybe has fit us a little more. How our forwards or maybe how our defensemen have to play. our D zone is pretty structured. We don't really give up a lot, and a lot of our shifts we are in the D zone, and it's passed around on the outside, which is a sign of a good hockey team. You see Vegas is a lot like that, how they just keep a lot to the outside, and a lot of the shots are from the points. But I think our neutral zone has probably changed the most for us. We're much faster coming through the neutral zone. We're aggressive. We try to stay above everybody, and our D move the puck fast, and that's probably another huge reason we had some D come in that are very, very good hockey players that have helped us out a lot this year.
A few weeks ago, we had Zadorov on the show, and it was pretty much right after the trade. He'd only played a couple of games at that point for you guys. What has he brought to the team, both on and off the ice so far?
Yeah, Biggs, he's a guy that makes you play a certain style when he's on the ice. You have to have your head up. He doesn't. I'm not saying he's trying to hurt guys, but he looks for contact. And it's someone when I played against, I was always aware. At the draw, you look out, you see he's out here. You got to get your head up, and you got to protect yourself and put yourself in good positions, because he will finish his checks. He has here a bunch. But he just causes that extra bit of, worrisome out there. And we have another guy, Carson Soucy's the same way. That was another guy in Seattle where, he caught me once. And he's just a guy that, enjoys contact, and those guys are no fun to play against. So it's nice having those two on our back end.
You got JT Miller. I mentioned he's been on their show. The guy's got a little bit of a temper, to say the least. And I like it because it brings a lot to our show when we have him on, because he just lets it fly from the hip. He could care less what he's saying or how it's going to be taken by whoever. Last year, he was criticized because he was yelling at some defensemen, smashing his stick, screaming at the bench. How is that taken in the room? Because like you mentioned with you and Dakota, the media just takes it and runs. I played for a long time. I know how that's just a minor thing and guys just a blip on the radar. Does it get amplified in Vancouver? Did he address the team when he's doing that stuff?
No, and I don't think he really has to. I think the one thing with Millsy is that he's passionate, and hockey's his life. And when he's away from the rink, especially now as he's getting older and having talks with them, it's what he thinks about constantly, is how to help us win and how to make our team better as a player or as a leader. So that's the one thing you can't take away from him. Even if he's having a night where he's having a temper or he's slamming a stick, he's engaged. And that's 82 games of him being engaged. And when you're such a dominant presence defensively, offensively, and with his body, there's not many players like that. To have somebody that's ready to play each and every night is a big reason why we have success. He drives a lot of our forwards, and sure, he slams a stick once in a while, and you got to duck. But I mean, he's a 100-point guy that plays defensively and runs guys over. So that's pretty rare in this league.
What's the most thing you've done when you're frustrated? You ever break your stick? You come off the bench, he's busted over the boards. Do you internalize it, then you get home and yell at your wife? Is that what you do?
No, we don't talk hockey here. But no, I'm no saint. I slam my stick. I slam a door. I had really bad habits in junior. That I've definitely worked on, but I still slam a door from time to time and yell at myself. But I've gotten better at it. It's you just never want to be a distraction on the bench, and that's probably the one thing you try to worry about, is you have it happen and then try to move on as quick as possible.
So I want to bring it back to earlier in your career, and we were talking a little bit before the show. You're from Massachusetts. You're a South Shore kid like me, and most of the guys that went pro there went to the NCAA. Obviously, Whitney, Brian Boyle, Charlie Coyle, all played in NCAA, even Hockey East. What brought a kid from Scituate all the way out to the Q? Why'd you go the junior route?
Yeah, I was probably the first kid to do it in my age group. I was committed to Penn State. I really wanted to go to Northeastern. I got 2 visits there, and they never offered. And I changed and I went to Penn State. I really enjoyed their coach, their visit there. He was, an offensive mind and seemed to really love hockey, and how he talked about it with me at a young age. And then I visited Moncton that summer before I committed. And that coach there also, I really enjoyed. His name was Danny Flynn, and how he talked about, he basically said you can come up here and play with Ivan Barbashev for 3 years. And I think that gives you a really good chance to get drafted, and we'll mold you into an NHL player and have those habits that they do. And I think that was hard to pass up, to be able to play with a player like that for, my development years. And that's why I ended up making the decision.
Well, a few years later,
do you regret that decision a little? Because
no, no, I don't know if I would say I'm out there recommending it, or I'm preaching that that's the way to go. I understand that there's a lot of luck that got into it to get me to where I am now, and being opportunistic for when I got called up and everything. Would have been a lot easier to have a 4-year scholarship, but I took that risk, and I think it's there for people, and there's pros and cons to it. But I'm not anyone who's knocking on kids' door telling them to go to the Quebec League. I think it's a good option, but it's not for everybody.
Did Penn State have a full ride on the table for you?
They did, yes.
Wow, Connor, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Were all your friends back in Mass? Like, what are you doing?
No. I think people knew. I convinced my parents to let me go. I told them that my dreams to play in the NHL, and I think Moncton gives me a better chance to play in the NHL. If it doesn't work out, that's on me. And I know people say, well, you're 16 years old, your parents should talk you out of that. But my passion for hockey has always been there. And I'm, eternally grateful for them for giving me that opportunity to let me go. And, all three of my sisters, or two of my sisters, played college sports. So it wasn't like it was new to us. Like, I knew what that was like, but like I said, I'm grateful my parents, let me do that.
Do you feel like you wouldn't have picked up those bad habits that you talked about, slamming the door? You would have went to college?
Well, I think my 19-year-old year, when maybe the league, I was maybe a little not too good for the league, but there was definitely some nights.
We're getting headlines here, Tim.
No, there was definitely
He's too
some
good
nights
for the league now.
There was definitely some nights where maybe you could have benefited from playing against older players. At 19, you're playing against 16-year-olds. That's that new rule, right? Like, they let guys go to the American League now. I think, that was probably where I picked up my bad habits, is just playing against, younger kids at that time.
He was so frustrated that he was too good. That's what it was. Like, I'm so good, it's frustrating for me because I have to just slow. Is that you saying you had to slow down, Connor? Because you were just like so imposing on these poor young kids, you had to ease up.
Yeah. Well, it was more like I wish I back checked maybe once or twice. That was. You
didn't have to back check because he had the puck, Tim, the whole time.
Well,
there's
he's
a little
not
bit of
wrong.
truth to that.
When we're looking at your draft year, 129 points in 67 games played, which is just crazy. And you would have think with those numbers, you'd be a pretty high pick, but you went in the 5th round. Was that a surprise? Why didn't you go sooner than that?
I was a second year. I didn't get drafted in 2014. So that was my second year into the draft. So there wasn't really a surprise. A lot of the teams I met with said there was a wide range on where they could see taking me on draft day, starting really in the 3rd round to all the way to the 7th. So I was sitting there patiently, just waiting. And there was a couple teams I wanted to go to, and Arizona was definitely one of them. So I was glad.
You wanted to go to Arizona? Nobody in Massachusetts has ever said that.
Well, they didn't really have the greatest team at the time. I thought
they had a big tall guy.
Yeah, I thought maybe in like 3 years that gave me a good chance to maybe play.
You were too good for Arizona when you got drafted. That's what it was. You were the best player for the Coyotes.
They sent me back after 3 days in training camp.
Oh, sorry, Tim. I thought you were going to go.
No, let's talk about that, because you went to the AHL, played a few seasons there after coming up from Moncton. What was the adjustment for like the biggest one, playing juniors to playing with, like you said, like guys your own age and older in the AHL?
I think it was just learning how to play without the puck. When you, like I said, when you're in junior and you do have a lot of production, you have the puck predominantly, and you run the power play, and a lot of the offense goes through you. And then you get to the AHL, and all of a sudden you're 3rd best player in your line, and you have to learn how to play like that. And it took me a year to adjust. And then I was fortunate to have great coaching my second year with Steve Potvin and Mike Van Ryan, and they just worked with me each and every day, video wise, Just learning the system, getting those habits of cheating for pucks out of your game. And it wasn't that it wasn't working in the AHL, or it was just like that talk won't allow that. That was always the conversation, is if you go up there, Rick won't allow this. And if you want to play in the NHL, you got to get a lot of this out of your game.
So you're a fifth rounder. In that time, Arizona has a lot of high draft picks. They were a little successful during that time. They had a decent playoff run, I think, in 14-15. Where were you on the depth chart? Because I wasn't drafted, and I had the same road as you did. AHL for 3 years, got called up my third year, and never looked back. Were there guys who were ahead of you, and then you're overlapping, you're jumping over them? What was that like going into camp the first year? Where did you see yourself on the chart?
Yeah, I was probably pretty low. I think they had Max Domi and
Duclair and Ryder and
then they had Strome, Merkley, Krause, Perlini, McGinnis, Dvorak. They had all these guys that were much ahead of me, and I had a long way to go to learn how to play. So I knew I was going to probably spend a couple of years in the A. And as a fifth round pick, you don't get too many opportunities. It's not like you're going to go up and down a few times till you get comfortable. You're probably going to get one or two calls, and that's really it. So I was ready for my call, and I was fortunate when I got up. I got hot, and I like you said, you just never looked back, and I never went back.
So you never looked back, and you guys made the playoffs your second year there. So you had some success in relative to how good Coyotes have been over the years, but. Fast forward to 2021, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, captain of the team, franchise player. He's not too happy. He wants to go. He wants to get moved. He's got a big contract. Were you expecting anything that offseason? You were coming off a pretty good season. You've established yourself in Arizona. What were the conversations like with Don Maloney leading up to that offseason? Did you have your phone on you all summer, knowing you were going to get dealt?
No, at the time it was Bill Armstrong, who just came in, and it was a contract year, and we just never really started having contract discussions. And like I said, I loved being a Coyote. I wanted to stay like anybody does that is on a team since they're 18, and but they were going in a different direction. They're going in a rebuild, and they're kind of coming out of it now. So I expected to kind of get traded. I think after I got back from the World Championships that we hadn't started a discussion that I figured I was going to get traded, and we had heard from a few teams that they were in talks, and ended up being Vancouver. So happened. It was nice to go to a big hockey market like this and to go with O. And I was excited. I was excited from the day it happened.
So why that always is boggling to me, because you're still young. You're 27, right? So that would have put you out 23 when you were with Arizona. What? 24?
25. I was turning 26 that next season. Yeah.
Still young. So why aren't you a part of this rebuild? You're almost a point per game guy at that point. You had 39 points, 49 games. You were arguably one of their better players. Does it annoy you that they're shopping you? You're this young kid. You're ready to cash in. This is your time to, have a big contract. You seem pretty calm about it.
Yeah, I think I've gotten over it. I think at the time, during the season when there wasn't contract negotiations going on, I was maybe frustrated, and I was definitely willing to go back and understanding that it even was going into a rebuild, because I had loyalty to that organization. They gave me the opportunity, and but when the trade happens, it's kind of, you just move right on. And Vancouver obviously gave me a contract quickly after, and then you're very appreciative to that organization for doing that. So from that day on, I was a Vancouver Canuck, and I've been happy ever since.
And what a contract it was! You went from making less than $1 million every year to making $5.5 million. Was it 4.5 or?
Yeah, I think it was shade under 5.
That's pretty good.
It was a 5-year deal, and it's I signed that. I could have probably signed last year's, but I saw exactly what was happening here with the future they had. Those young guys, and Petey and Huggy and Millsy and Bess, all those guys. So I was excited to be a part of that for a long time.
What was the first thing you bought after you signed the big contract, after making, like John said, a lot less for the first few years of your career?
Well, I purchased my wife and I's home. I think that was. I'm not a crazy spender. I just wanted a house to live in.
I wanted a house in Vancouver or in Mass.
In our hometown, we moved to Marshfield, Mass.
Ooh, that's a nice area, Tim. I heard
it is beautiful.
So I want to talk about the organization because I played in Arizona. I know how the ins and outs of that organization work. It's a smaller market, not a lot of budget. You go from that situation to Vancouver, where they have a sleep coach, they have endless amounts of trainers and people who are trying to help you with your diet, trying to get the most out of the athletes. What did you think was the biggest difference? And I'm not slighting Arizona. It's just, the nature of the business. You have more money, you have more opportunities, you have more assets. What's the biggest thing that helps you on a day-to-day life?
Well, I think the guys at Arizona, the equipment staff and the trainers room, Zanobi and Stan, are the two guys that had there, are probably some of the best in the business. And they do deal with a small market team, and what they do there is remarkable. They were two great guys, but coming to a bigger market, I think the biggest thing for me was just the media. Coming into the room, usually there's one or two guys in Arizona. You knew them by name. They would text you and ask you a question. Like it was definitely different than now when you sit at the podium and there's 30 cameras and microphones. So, and it's every practice. It's not just after games against the Leafs. It's every practice. They're there. So I think that was for me was the biggest change for me is having to deal with that.
What's it like going from the media the first 2 years where they were just all over you guys, like just public enemy number one? What's wrong with us? Everybody's on the trading block. We got to blow this team up. Pedersen sucks. JT Miller is overpaid. Garland's overpaid. Why'd we sign this guy? Demko stinks now. How was that? Do you guys commiserate in the room together? Because I've been around it a little bit, but I've never been one of the top guys. Like, you're a top guy, Con. Just embrace it. Do you commiserate with those guys? Like, gosh, this is tough.
For sure, last year was definitely was tough on me, and I think Brock and Bo Horvat was here with us, and him going through. There was a lot of trade rumors, Tyler Meyer, so that was definitely tough. The uncertainty, and it kind of started from game one. Once we started losing, we started off I think 0-6, and it was never ending, till the trade deadline. So it was a tough year, and I think that's to be expected when you lose. We're paid a lot of money as professional athletes, and that's part of the territory. Is when you don't perform, that's stuff you have to deal with. But it's not that it's easy. It's just that's part of the life. And that's when you win, you get to kind of have a quiet season like we are right now. I'm sure we'll pick up eventually, but it's been nice so far. And you see the success guys are having. Brock was in trade rumors all year, and that's tough to deal with. And now he's got 30 goals. So you can kind of see when you have peace of mind, what guys can do and how they can perform.
Do you lean on the wife a little bit? Because you're not one for trade rumors yourself. Your name gets bandied about too for some reason. Who do you lean on? Do you talk to guys in the room, your family, your wife? How do you just kind of block it out?
Yeah, me and my wife really don't talk hockey.
No, you said that twice now. It doesn't go home at all?
No, it's just that's not really our relationship. We just we just kind of hang out, watch movies. That's kind of our big project for the day is find out what movie we're going to watch at night. We have a great dog that we spend our days with walking, and it's nice not to talk hockey because I talk it enough, on the phone, and I have friends around the league. When trade rumors happen, yeah, I probably talk to my dad the most, maybe.
Yeah.
And try to talk it through him and how I'm handling it. But luckily this season, since everything happened at the start of the year, it's over now, and it's been quiet, so it's been nice.
Quinn Hughes is going to have probably over 100 points this year as a defenseman. Can you talk a little bit about just the steps that he's taken each of the years that you guys have played together over the last 3 years, and just what it's like watching him do what he does every night?
Yeah, he's one of my close friends, and I get to see a lot of the stuff that he does in the summer, and how serious he took it this year. He's improved his eating habits. He's reading a book almost weekly, trying to prove his brain. Like he's really taking it to another level. I mean, I know
that's all you got to do,
funny.
kids. That's it. You eat a little better and read a book.
I know that sounds silly, but as a captain, when he's 23 years old, that motivates you, and that motivates our group to see how much better he is playing with the stuff he's doing off the ice. And he's the engine for our team. When he has the puck, good things happen each and every time. And how many touches he gets, it's remarkable. If I have 15 touches in the game, I get worried because there's going to be a few bad plays, but he seems to never make a bad decision with the puck, and he gets it a lot more than I do. So I hope he, gets the recognition he gets this year, because it's been crazy to watch from up close.
And one of the things about him, too, because he's so skilled offensively and he's not a big guy, he gets kind of knocked a lot, at least in the media. I don't know what it's like in Vancouver, but around the league, of just not being that great defensively. But if you watch him play, he controls the puck so well. You can't miss him on the ice. Do you feel like his defensive skills get overlooked a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's probably goes back to just the size thing. When you're a defenseman, you're small. I think that's an easy thing to say, but he defends with his feet. I think those are the hardest guys to play against. I think, you saw like the Tang back when Pittsburgh was winning cups, how much he would defend on surfing and coming across using his feet and killing plays before guys get over the red line. And that's what Huggy does a lot. Is a lot of times he's not even in his D zone because he's killing plays before they get in there with his skating. And he you turn on him quickly in the corner in practice, he's already back in your face because he's that quick. You see his quickness at the blue line, but it goes underrated how that's both sides of the ice. He can cover you with his feet that well. And that's that. Yeah. I hate when I see that he's not a good defender, because I think he's one of the best.
Who's harder to deal with in practice, Hughes or Myers?
So different.
If they're guarding you.
Yeah. For me, probably Hughes, because Mizey's big. I try to get under bigger guys and use the leverage. And if a lot of times a lot of bigger guys have to take a penalty on you, not on purpose, but you get into their hands and it's uncomfortable for them. So with Huggy, yeah, I would say one of my strengths is skating, and his is much better. So there's no upside for me going up against him. But Mizey, maybe I can get under him from time to time. But both of them are hard.
We'll clip out that last part, Tim. We'll just say Myers sucks and Hughes is a lot better. So we'll make that a clip. This is great. So we have that one, and Connor's too good for NCAA. So we're getting some good stuff here. When your GM goes out and makes a deal for Nikita Zadorov, because the guy was going to be the most highly coveted D prospect at the trade deadline. I played with him in Buffalo. He's a moose of a man. He's got a good offensive awareness for his size. Like you said, he's a monster. Does that change the mindset a little bit? Because at the time, you're playing well. You're in first place, but all of a sudden, you guys are adding pieces. You're adding high-end guys. Does that change it? You go from like, okay, this is a really fun start. Holy crap, we're a Stanley Cup contender now. We have some expectations.
I think it just gives you a boost. I think, I think when you see that your GM, maybe believes in your group and sees what you guys are doing. And it was still early on in the year, but it just gives everybody a nice little boost. And you recognize that we are adding a few pieces, and, we're getting better. And Z was in our division. And he was always, like I said, he's always hard to play against. So when that's on your side, that feels a lot better. So yeah, it's been a great addition for us. He's a big personality for us as well. It was fun to have him in the locker room. He gets a hard time here. We have guys going at it, but he enjoys it, and he deals with it in a great way.
Well, Tim does this little rapid fire questions. I could ask you questions all day. I'm actually surprised you're even doing the interview. You just woke up like an hour ago. Like you're an animal. So
no, I got up a couple. My dog woke me up at 8, so I've been up. We had a cup of coffee and a homemade breakfast for the first time in a month, so it was nice.
That's nice. What'd you have for breakfast?
Well, now I'll get in trouble with our trainer. I had a couple pancakes and a couple slices of bacon. They'll tell me how that. I can't practice well tomorrow because I didn't have gluten-free pancakes here. So we'll see.
So is it that in depth where they track everything you eat? Like you have a
no. But they're very diligent. They're great. If you need to eat something like Z eats gluten-free pancakes, like our team will get that for them. Like they're the guys on that part of our staff, the science and the sports. They are very diligent. They're hardworking too. So we're fortunate to have those two guys.
So when I played, the best thing on the road, you would get a big piece of fried chicken, and then you would have ranch, and you would get Alfredo sauce, and you get some hot sauce, and you mix it all together, and you would have a big plate of Alfredo pasta with it. And is that on the menu for the Vancouver Canucks? Because I don't feel like that's inducive for a good performance that night. What do you guys have for pregame in Vancouver?
Well, I think what when you hear the best players in their sport, sometimes it gets leaked out what they eat, and it's a copycat. Like I changed when I heard that Tom Brady ate salmon before games, so then I started to eat salmon. And then I think people heard Nathan McKinnon eat chickpea pasta, so guys started eating that, and gluten-free pasta. So it's kind of, if somebody out there is getting advantages, guys try to just copy, and that's kind of how it all ends up. You hear from other people what the best are eating. So I know we have gluten-free and we have a pasta bar here, and it's great, but I try to eat as healthy as possible on game days.
What's your body fat at?
I think I'm like 8.5, but I'm a little thick for a shorter guy. I'm about 5'7", 5'8", right in between there, and I weigh about 181 pounds. So
wow,
yeah,
that is big, 181.
Yeah, well, I try to get down to about 177, but it's sometimes tougher when you're on the road that long.
Can you see your abs? Like
no,
when you?
No.
Oh, no kidding. That's interesting, Tim, because usually the shorter guys are always shredded, absolutely ripped.
Yes, yeah.
Quinn? You see, does Quinn have like a six-pack?
I'm not sure. Probably the guy. I was gonna say he was very short, but he wasn't. But Beauvillier was probably he was in great shape for a smaller guy. That's a he was about 5'9". I used to tell him he was a lot shorter than me, but I can't anymore. So
that's funny.
Yeah, you're right. The shorter guys are usually jacked.
Except for you, you're an outlier. You're a contrarian.
Except for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to show off, Tim. He can't have everything. I do a little TV for the Hawks now. Beauvillier, he's out for a while. I wonder if he's eating pasta with gluten in it.
Yeah, I think he had a wrist injury. That was tough. He was a great team. I think they got lucky to get him. I enjoyed him a lot. I played against him in the Q for a couple of years and didn't like him. And then he came to Van, and he was one of my favorites. So funny how it works.
The Q's got a reputation of being all skill, no physicality, very soft league. Did you see that playing there? Because I grew up in Ontario. I was the opposite of you. I wanted to play major juniors, but I wasn't good enough, so I had to go to the NCAA. It was the best thing I ever did. Was the Q soft, as everybody talks about?
No, I didn't think our team was. We had Ross Johnson, Zach McEwen. Yeah. We had a couple guys that didn't end up playing professionally. Kyle Haas, like he fought I think 25 times a year. Reed Holiday, like these guys were fighting each and every night. So we had a really tough team, and I think that's probably they ended up. I think they don't have fighting anymore in the Q from the last time I checked, which I think is massive mistake. But that's, maybe they leaned into that perception.
They did. Who was the big star in the Q when you were there?
McKinnon, Ehlers, Duran was there for a while. Mantha, Barbashev. There was a bunch. Sam Girard. Yeah, we had a lot of guys that were great players that, it's fun to kind of still see where they are now.
Gosh, imagine if you would have went to Penn State. He would be a first liner, Tim.
He's on the best team in the league. I think he did something okay.
All right, Tim, do your quick hits here. Let them get out of here.
Rapid fire questions are brought to you by DoorDash Canada. The first one here is, what was your favorite subject in school?
History.
He didn't go to school. Kidding me?
Favorite vacation spot?
Probably Tampa. I go to Tampa in the summer.
Oh my gosh, Connor, 0 for 2 in the question. So Tampa, the guy just signed a $5 million deal. He's going to Disneyland. He's going to Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually where we go. Me and my wife, we go to Disney. That's tough.
What's in Tampa that's so good?
I coach a tournament for my junior GM. So we get to spend a week at a nice resort, and me and my wife go to Disney a few days.
All inclusive?
Heck, yeah, it's pretty inclusive.
Wow. No, like you get free drinks.
I know what you mean. Yeah. He gets everything's
Not
covered.
like diversity equity. No, is everybody allowed at the resort?
No, everything's covered.
It's 5'10" and under. You have to be a certain height.
We're good then. We're good.
Oh gosh.
Which player did you idolize or model your game after when you were younger?
Mark Savard or Sergei Samsonov.
Nice.
I love the Sergei Samsonov reference. My favorite player growing up, one of them was him. He's so good.
Yeah, he got I think he had Pat Burns in Boston. They kind of buried him a little bit, but he was a very, very skilled player. Probably would dominate the league nowadays.
Oh, 100%. Overshadowed by Jumbo a little bit. I think they came in the same year.
Same draft, yeah. Jumbo went first and he went 8th, I believe.
What a draft. That really worked out for him.
Who has been the favorite line mate of your career so far? Or line mates?
You can say in camp too, because we probably played together in camp.
Well, it's tough not to say the two guys now, but me, Keller, and Schmaltz had a good stretch there, and our talk called us the no leash line. So we always found that funny.
What does that mean? The no leash line? Sorry, Tim.
Any mistakes were getting broken up.
That's funny.
I love that. Who's the hardest defenseman in the league to play against besides Quinn?
Off the team, I'll say someone like underrated. I think Matt Roy in LA is very good, and I like Lozon in Nashville. I think those two guys are extremely hard to play against.
Matt Roy is a Michigan Tech alumni where I went to school.
Okay, I played with him at Worlds, and he's I really never knew of him before then, but he's very, very good, very smart.
Social media gets you into trouble. Someone said that Matt Roy is the best player for the Kings for the last 5 years, the best D-man. Drew Doughty commented, "Not a chance." And so now there's some affliction there. So yeah,
you kind of already answered it.
Stay off Twitter, Connor.
No,
I'll ask again. Who's the most underrated player in the whole league? Maybe we'll pick a forward this time.
Oh, I said this to Quinn the other day. We were talking about this. I probably see Philip Forsberg. He was extremely fun to watch when we played them. I think we played him 3 times this year. I'd say probably Forsberg.
How does that conversation go between you and Quinn? You just talk about the other team, like that was fun to watch him play?
We get dinner a lot together, and we both like hockey, so we just talk hockey. And I think we were playing guess who I think the most underrated is.
Oh, no kidding.
Riveting dinners.
You guys get beers or wine or just water? And
yeah, we neither of us are drink, so
smart.
It's in bed by 8:30. It's quite the group. Everybody
you guys
tries to get in
smoke a lot
on
of marijuana because Vancouver's known for their marijuana.
Oh, we do not. No.
Okay, just asking.
Last question here. We have a lot of young kids that listen to the show. What advice do you give to young hockey players who want to improve their game?
Yeah, I actually run a camp in the summer for younger players.
Come to my camp, he said.
No, yeah, come to my camp. No, my advice is always the same: is you have to play with your head up. I think the game moves so fast nowadays, and I think unfortunately they've taken hitting out at a young age, so kids aren't taught how to get hit or how to take hits or how to protect themselves from hits. And it's an art, and it's how you avoid injuries to your shoulders and to your head, which is most important. So I think playing with your head up and protecting yourself, that's most important. You know, the percentage of people that make the NHL or NCAA is a small number, but you don't want to be someone that gets a head injury from a sport. So to learn how to protect yourself at a young age is huge. It's pivotal.
Which is a dying art. I love that answer because you don't hear that very often. People get seriously injured by not knowing how to take a hit, and they put themselves in bad situations. So do you think this is a problem with the league, especially for defensemen? They lean into a check from behind. They'll shoulder back at the very last second, then you hit them from behind, and you get a 2 or a 5 or whatever the penalty is. Those penalties are just going through the roof.
Yes, I don't think those penalties are the ones that, or those hits are the ones that cause massive injuries. I think it's the ones where a guy doesn't look up ice or catches or skating through the neutral zone and bobbles a puck and doesn't understand that danger's coming. Or I think those are the injuries. When you're hitting your head at full speed is what I'd like to see out of the game. But you can't take it out of the game without removing hits. You have to take it out of the game by guys learning to protect themselves and understanding that there's a guy that's 5 feet away. I might need to get my head up here so I don't get hit. And I think unfortunately they've taken hitting out of the game at young ages, and you see kids skating around with their heads down, and sometimes you might run into Tom Wilson, and that's scary. Those guys are, I don't think he's a dirty player at all. I think he's just a strong man that understands what he needs to do to help his team, and sometimes it's to hit somebody.
Who's the hardest hitter in the league?
Seuss caught me a few times.
Kidding.
He's strong. He's very strong. Schenner's a big man. Doing box out with him in practice isn't fun. He's just a big man. So that's a tough question. There's so many guys that are so big and strong nowadays that and fast. That's the guys you worry about that can skate and then get you. So those are there's a bunch.
Who's got the best nickname on your team? Because you mentioned Huggy. I like that. Seuss. That's okay. What's your nickname? What do people call you?
Arizona was always G, and then it's changed to Garley because we have a trainer here that's G. So it's Garley, which is just okay. I don't know. That's a good. Z's nice. That's nice. You get a big.
What's Nils Hoglander's nickname?
Hoggy. I
like that.
Yeah,
that's pretty solid.
He's a good kid. Yeah, I like it. That's probably it. I think we have a pretty boring group of nicknames.
Are you frustrated, speaking of names, that you probably are top 3 now of Connors in the league because of Connor Bedard coming in? He gets a lot of press, and there's obviously McDavid. Does that keep you up at night thinking about that sort of kind of stuff?
Well, Hellebuck, so I was already out of the top 3.
Oh man, now you're dropping out of the top 3.
Yeah, I'm out. And then if you want to do last names, Kyle Connor, I could be out of the top 10 by the time we figure it out. Yeah,
this is getting worse. This is not good.
Yeah,
they all spell it differently though. They all got the 2 N's in there.
I got 1 N. I'm the only one that spells it correctly, so that's that. I have that going for me.
Clip that too, Tim. Connor spells it right. Those other guys are wrong.
Yeah.
All right, Connor, man, that's enough. We'll let you go. Thanks for joining us, man. This is a blast. Is there anything you want to plug? Your hockey school?
No, I don't. The smaller groups are easier for me to coach, so it's fine. But
Connor hates kids. We'll cut that.
No, I appreciate it. That's pretty much it.
That's it. All right. Well, good luck the rest of the way. Tell all the boys on the team I said hi. I actually know quite a few of them. I skate with Brock Besser a little bit when I was still playing. So, good group of guys you got there. Good luck the rest of the way, like I said. Then we'll catch you around, Connor. See you, buddy.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Cheers. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Dropping the Gloves with John Scott, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from to never miss an episode.